Hello and welcome to Fender Play Live. I'm your host, Eugene Edwards, and we've got another fun episode in store for you all tonight. We're doing a deep dive on Creedence Clearwater Revival's hit song, Bad Moon Rising, which you can learn on Fender Play. It's a classic song that combines the band's rockabilly influence with John Fogerty's timeless songwriting. Also, it was used beautifully in one of my favorite movies of all time, American Werewolf in London. It's just 3 chords, which makes it great for beginners, but there's a little more under the surface that makes it great for players of all levels. So we'll be exploring all of that and more tonight. Helping me out today is our return guest, our return champion, my close friend of over 15 years, Mr. Brian Whelan. Hello.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been fortunate to be working with you for the past couple of weeks on a project, and I'm thrilled that we continue to see each other by Zoom. And also, we're joined, as always, by the one and the only, thank goodness, Dylan Calagiuri.
Hey, hello. Hey, everybody.
Dr. Dylan, thank you so much for subbing for me last week, buddy. That was a solid. I appreciate it, man.
It's just don't go watch the show and everything's fine. Good.
I followed your advice. I've not. I'm believing great things. Brian is a singer-songwriter, guitarist that has played with Dwight Yoakam, Jim Lauderdale, and Chris Shifflet of the Foo Fighters. Plus, he has a couple of solo releases on his own. Brian, what guitar are you holding, and can you please demo it?
Yeah, this is the Chris Shifflet custom Telecaster. So it's based on a 70s Telecaster Deluxe.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing that's different about Chris's guitar is that the neck is scoped a little different. The radial curve is flatter, like a humbucker guitar would be.
Right.
So it makes it easier to really speed up and down the neck and do wild and crazy bends for stadium rock if you're in the Foo Fighters.
Nice and loose there. And Dylan, yes, indeed. Dylan, what do you have?
You know what? I'm really lucky, you guys, because I get to play a new Am Pro 2 American Professional 2 series. This is the pine, roasted pine. And I think even the neck, it looks a little toasty to me.
You can smell the pine.
I could smell the roasted pine. Yes, like you're making a pesto over there.
It's really quite lovely. Let's see, I'll play something.
Way to wrap it up, Dylan. Nice to go.
Fancy chords.
I know. All of his chords have numbers in them. Let's get to it, you guys. Listen out there. If you have any questions about Bad Moon Rising throughout the show, drop them in the comments. We'll do our best to get to them, but we've got some tunage to get to. Let's start off with hearing the song in a bridge version. Brian, can you play us a little version of Bad Moon Rising before we dive into the individual parts?
Eugene, I would love to do that.
I see the bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way. I see earthquakes and lightning. I see bad times of day. Well, don't go around tonight when it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. Oh, I hope you have got your things together. Hope you are quite prepared to die. It looks like we're in for nasty weather. One eye is taken for an eye. Well, don't go around tonight. Well, it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. Well, don't go around tonight. Well, it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise.
Yeah.
All right.
Man, I would have put you on at Woodstock with that right there.
Yeah, I could have played, middle of the night, 4 in the morning. I'll take any slot. Any slot.
Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And by the way, just as a side, when people are able to gather, everyone go see Brian Whelan and his band. This is he's such a talented guy. You hear that great voice singing his own original tunes. Thank you so much. I mean, not many people can sing Fogerty stuff in his key.
It's hard.
Let's start with the distinctive intro and begin breaking down what's going on there. Can we hear just the intro one more time, that guitar intro?
Sure. That's the only time that he uses those shapes.
Yeah.
When he's in that position, he's doing an A bar chord here, and then E bar chord over the B and the A.
Yeah.
And then from then on out, it's all first position. E major, B7, A major. And that's all he's doing. But the intro just uses these barred shapes. You'll notice I'm actually playing them like this with my thumb. I prefer it to actually barring it, but you can bar them like this.
Yes, you're politically opposed to actually playing a proper bar chord, right? Like you have
I don't know. It's because we've talked about this. It's a very personal instrument, and I find that this is actually cleaner.
Using your thumb over there.
Than this. And yeah, politically opposed because when you bar, you're barring all 6 strings, and you only really need to bar 3.
So you come from an efficiency point.
He's
now,
I can get off my platform. Yeah,
of course.
On Fender Play, we'll teach you how to play Bad Moon Rising in standard tuning, which is what you'll see me throughout this episode. I'll be playing. That's how it is on our site. But Brian, it looks like you're clearly playing different chord shapes. How can that be?
It's magic. No, it's I have the guitar tuned down one whole step, and I am playing in E major, which is sounding like D major. And this is we've mentioned several bands that do this, but Fogerty did this a lot. And continues to do it. In fact, if you go and watch him playing with his family band, he plays with his kids now, no one, and even if you watch his shows from the late 90s, the Blue Moon Swamp era, you can see that he has 2 other guitar players on stage, and no one is doing the same thing. There's always one guy tuned down a half step, and a lot of the time it's John. And then somebody playing in standard tuning, and then somebody playing with a capo, or in the case of this song, the late 90s version has him playing a step down, another guy playing acoustic guitar playing in D, which is what you're doing.
Right.
And then there's another guy up here doing what you only really hear over the intro.
Interesting.
So playing barred shapes over it. So there's no capo. You could introduce a capo and do it in a different key. He does that on other songs. But that's a Fogerty gag he's been doing for a long time. When you have real simple songs like this, a three-chord song, it really helps to make it sound more dense.
Correct. Yeah. So the question is, why would we tune our guitar down an entire step? And I think you hit upon it. There's a certain density of that tone. Again, if I play, here's my open E shape E major chord because I'm tuned standard. Now, Brian, if you can do the same thing that I just did, play your open E shaped chord, which we'll hear a D. Sits deeper, obviously. We're down there, and this affects our tone. We have other songs on Fender Play that feature this D standard tuning. In fact, there's a lesson on D standard tuning itself. Dylan, can you tell us more about the other songs that have that drop down? And are you tuned down?
I'm actually, I'm with Brian. I'm tuned way down to D standard, and it's different from drop D, folks. So if you're used to drop D, that's one string tuned down. This is the whole guitar tuned down a step. So every letter goes down a letter in the alphabet. Right?
There you go.
But to give you an example, here's one of the songs we have on the site. It's called Revolution Is My Name by Pantera. So it's like, it's grittier, it's deeper, it's darker.
It just makes me want to go crash my car, man.
Now, hold on. There's another one that's pretty famous. You guys may have heard of this song. That's right. It's Madonna. Wait a minute. No,
wait a minute.
Come As You Are by Nirvana. Final answer, Nirvana. No, yeah. So, and that's kind of the secret of that really dark, gritty tone that I used to think was a bass when I was a kid. So,
Now I tell you, as a side note, how did Fogerty get there? I have a theory. It's my personal theory because we know in one of his other big hits, "Looking Out My Back Door," he references listening to Buck Owens, right? Dinosaur Victrola, listening to Buck Owens. I think he's probably playing on with Buck Owen records, and Don Rich was often tuned down a whole step. He does so on "Act Naturally," which you can also learn on Fender Play. And when the Beatles covered "Act Naturally," the Buck Owens, George Harrison tuned his guitar down a whole step so he could play those Don Rich licks. So it spreads across genres, this drop tuning thing. Paul McCartney most famously tuned his acoustic guitar down a whole step on "Yesterday." So we hear F major, but Paul's hand is playing an open G chord. So more about that, more songs on the site. Let's get to now, Brian.
Yeah, real quick before you go on, I just in terms of the density of it, where that is coming from, like technically, and this is going to get into, me, I like to talk about music theory all the time on these
that's so
Play
you
episodes. And so what's happening is it's the way the chord is voiced.
Yes.
In terms of the root, the third, and the fifth, and where they appear in the chord, and that's what creates the density. So when you play this is a D chord, but it's in E shape, so I have E on the bottom, E on the top. Now you play your D chord, so now you hear that F sharp on top. That's the third on the top, ringing out on the very top of the chord. And so you play those two things together. It makes some of the notes are in unison, and then others are different. So it ends up sounding like an 18-string guitar if you have three guys playing all these different voices.
Well, yeah, the rhythm guitar on the CCR record is in standard tuning. So there is a guitar on the track playing. So as you say, that combined with Fogerty's dropped tuned guitar, you do. You have a broader spectrum of those two guitars are covering more sonic space. About that tone, that distinctive tone, Dr. Dillon, can you consult? Can we consult with you about that? About how does Fogerty get that sound that we're hearing gear-wise?
Well, so basically, he's using two humbuckers on his guitar, right? And he's in the middle position, so he's getting the best of both worlds. That's if you guys are using your guitar at home, you can adjust your pickup selector. When we say middle position, that's what I'm referring to. And then he's using a jangly tone. One of the things about dropping to D is you get a jangle because the strings are flopping, right? So if the string's really tight, if it's flopping around, you get like a janglier. It's jangling. That's it. That's why it's such a good descriptor.
That's the medical reason. That's the medical reason why.
He's the doctor.
You have to go to school for that. Yeah. And then a big secret to this is the 215 cabinet with the 100-watt head. I mean,
yes.
If you're thinking about it, the lower the sound, the slower the frequency, and the bigger the speaker that you're going to need. You're going to need something that can really give it to you. So.
100 watts too. That's pretty clean.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of headroom. I want to thank my friend Curtis, who's he's John Fogerty's guitar tech, and I consulted with him about this episode and for what does John use. That's how we happen to know that. In fact, on my Mustang GTX, I'm using a basic bandmaster head, and then I put a 215 cat because you can obviously swap parts around. So that's how I'm getting and put some slapback on there because there is a rockabilly thing going here.
Absolutely.
Let's get back to some music. Brian, can we get on to the verse and chorus? Can you play a verse chorus for us, and then we'll talk about what's going on there?
I hear hurricanes are blowing. I know the end is coming soon. I feel the rivers overflowing. I hear the voice of rage and roar. Well, don't go around tonight, was bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise.
Sweet. Yeah. Hearing you do it, it's funny that he's got this very upbeat, everything's major chords, and then of course the lyrics are very, very doom and gloom. As a songwriter, you got to appreciate that juxtaposition, right?
Very clever.
And talk to me about the simplicity of the parts. I know you're a great arranger and you analyze records really well, Brian. So tell me about what else is going on, instrumentation, and then we'll talk about some of the guitar licks going on in the verses. Okay.
Well, there are two guitar parts playing very similar parts. This is again going to be a swung beat and not a straight beat. So it's going to go ding-a-ding, 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 as opposed to ding-a-ding, ding-a-ding. So he's swinging through that beat. The bass line is very simple, and the bass and drums together are forming what we're calling a 2-beat. So very much related to country music. You mentioned Buck Owens earlier.
Yep.
That's I think probably a real clear influence on this song. And I felt when I listened to this, when you also take that tape slap that you hear on John Fogerty's voice when he sings, this is very reminiscent to me of early Sun records, of Elvis Presley's Sun records, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash. It almost seems like a little bit of an homage to that music to my ear, because some of those elements are not always used in Creedence material. A lot of CCR songs are mid-tempo. They're straight, not shuffled. And he doesn't use that. He doesn't allude to Sun Records via the tape slap. If you want to make your music sound like Sun Records, the quickest, easiest way to do it is to put a tape slap on your voice or on some other instruments, and you will automatically be alluding to that music. So, and then with the tempo, with this boom chack, boom chack, boom chack 2-beat music, you're really inferring rockabilly, which is what that music was on 50s Sun Records. Do you want me to talk about the Carl Perkins lick now? Is this a good time to bring this up?
Perfect. Now is neither the time or place, Brian, honestly. No, that's perfect. That's exactly. That was.
I don't want everyone out there to know how the sausage is being made, no, there's this lick that gets introduced in the second verse. In the first verse, in between lines, he's going. So that's your E shape, and he's using his pinky on and off second fret of the B string, which is a C sharp. Very cool. He's kind of adding this, which kind of lets it roll along a little bit, and again alludes to rockabilly and country music. In the second verse, he adds this lick. So where is that? That's Carl Perkins, right? That's where that. And he was another early Sun Records artist. So there's all kinds of little homages here to Sun Records. And then lastly, there's also. I will save it for the solo. Say what you were going to say, Eugene.
No. Well, I should note that on Fender Play on the site, we'll teach you a simple version of this tune. So if you're watching this and you're feeling a little lost, we're diving into different tunings and yada yada. Don't worry. On Play, we'll teach you a version that'll get you playing right away. Standard tuning, 3 chords, D, A, G, and you'll be in on this song at no time. Now, by the way, you mentioned tape slap. Can you explain what that is?
I'm not sure that I can. I'm not a studio guy. It just seems like magic to me. I think that what they're doing is they run a tape machine. And what you're hearing is the delay.
Correct.
And so that becomes an effect that you hear on the voice. So you're hearing the actual sound that you just made a split second later.
Correct. And so they call it tape.
That's
and they
about
call
as
it
close
slap.
as I could get.
No, well.
I only had 3 semesters of this stuff, and I was really bad at it. So
no, you're right. They use a tape machine. You're right. They record something and they play it back immediately. And usually you just hear it once. So they call that slap back. You hear that thing slap back once. That's kind of it slaps back really quickly. So that's what tape slap is. And Dylan, I want to add, wait, actually, before I'm sorry, screw the order here. We'll go to the third time around the Sun Records. We'll talk about the bass line now. Dylan, the bass line in the song, do you mind demoing that and telling us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Here, I'll give you guys a little context. So you can hear the bass is hitting solid on 1 and 3. And when Brian was talking about swing feel, we have a lesson that's called straight versus swing. And it teaches you the difference between straight and swing. So if you feel like that's a little bit of a hazy issue, that's a great lesson to check out. It's
that's tremendous. I didn't know we had that. Really?
Yeah, we do. In fact, we even have a lesson on single coils and glossary terms for everything we talked about, pretty much. But,
but the straight versus swing thing is important. It's come up almost every time Brian's on the show. He ends up having to talk about that because he covers a lot of the early rock and roll stuff for us. So
I talk about it all the time, and it's one of those things too where you can kind of. it really, you can talk about it and explain it and listen to me drone on about it, but you could also just, if you grab your guitar and try playing along with this, it's an easy thing to kind of hear and imitate in my mind. And keeping your wrist just kind of loose, and it's basically your upstroke is half the rhythmic value of your downstroke.
Right.
So check that out. Practice that.
Start slow.
You're going to need it down the road.
Absolutely.
Well, and also what happens with that bass line, as Dylan demonstrated, it's very straight. It's on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It's 1 and 3. It's very straight. But that gives that framework for the guitars to swing, right? It provides that frame, and now the guitars have that room to play.
Well, and you heard the kick drum do it too. The kick drum swings once, it goes boom, 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 ba-dum, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And so the kick drum is once every 2 bars, there is a little bit of swinging in the rhythm section, and the rest of the time they're just playing a caveman style.
And I'll just say one thing about the bass line. It's deceptively easy, right? Because it's easy to not play it correctly, believe it or not. When you're playing this bass line, a lot of this is about the decay or the release of the note. So it's when you let off. So, and that being an equal time every time. Learning that technique actually has a lot of mechanics that are involved in that.
And it sounds like you're letting go right on the backbeat.
I'm letting go right on the backbeat, so that there's a clear delineation of 2 and 4. And both those terms are online if you guys want to check those out. Play backbeat.
And the better bands will pay attention to note length and how it really helps the music. It makes it a lot easier to dance to. If you're dancing a 2-step, and I played many country bars over the years, but note length, particularly on the bass, makes a big difference for how we feel that rhythm and how we can move to it. So that's a great note. We have a question from Eric Silver, who I believe is watching us from Brooklyn. He says, Brian, the solo you played with the triads reminded me of the Bobby Fuller stuff. Was Fogerty influenced by him?
Well, almost definitely, yeah. And that's the Bobby Fuller record, I believe, was very influenced by Buddy Holly, and that I would guess would be the bigger influence on Fogerty.
Gotcha.
You can't tell me that this guy that writes all these 2.5-minute songs was not obsessed with Buddy Holly.
Well, speaking of the solo, can you play it for us?
Yeah, sure.
So we can break that down.
Yeah, just get your Caged book out.
That's right.
Read it here in a second. Oops. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
So what we're seeing there, you mentioned the Cage system. So we kind of hear a recap. It's basically a recap of the melody. He's basically playing the vocal melody of the song.
He starts with
right?
it.
Yeah.
So that's the first line. Then he starts to deviate from it. And what Homeboy in Brooklyn is talking about is we're using these inversions of chords, and they're all shapes from first position that you're moving up the neck. That's what the Cage system is. So we start here with a D shape, and then we move to an A shape and an A shape, and now back to an E shape. Now for the second line, we start the same, D shape, A shape, and then we go to the E shape over the 4-chord.
But just the top 3 or 4 strings, it seems like? Right?
Yes, and that's the same thing as, that's the same gag as I Fought the Law.
Right.
So it's just those top 3 strings. And again, I mentioned in that episode, I'll say it again, I use this tool to build solos all the time. So, you take the melody that you might play on the top string, then you can start to add 1 string below, and then you can start to add, you can do parallel 6 like that, or you can do all 3. So there's lots of different ways to basically do the same thing, but dress it up in different clothes.
Correct. And I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
For reference, the Bobby Fuller solo that Homeboy in Brooklyn's talking about, if I remember, it's a... something like, yep. Like that's different shapes, but yeah, he's running
Jangle.
like over the and a lot of jangle.
There's There's a lot of
There you
check.
go. You got it.
Yeah, sorry.
You're tuned in for this, so you have to make that calculation.
Oh, that's the flat 7. Yeah. So
Nice
that's
shot.
it's really a very similar principle to what's going on in that song. And if you listen to this kind of music, anything that's going to be influenced by 50s rock and roll, you'll hear a lot of that. That's where jangle rock was kind of invented.
Sure.
It was used by lots of other bands later on, but that's where it started.
Right. Now, and I know I interrupted you with that, so I don't know if you remember where you were.
I do. The
Okay,
next
go
thing
ahead.
I was going to do was you go, so at the second lick is, and then we hear this. And
That's
so
right.
this is the first time this comes up in the song. This is yet another Sun Records moment because
Mm-hmm.
this is a famous lick from That's All Right Mama, which
Right. We hear it's in A, and I'm standard tuning, so we hear that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That moves. Well, we think of this kind of as a D shape, but I'm playing it at the 9th fret, so I'm making an A major triad. And you on the top 2 string, the pinky reaches up to the 12th fret, releasing the high E string back to the 9th.
there you go.
But yes, and Fogerty very
Sounds like a
cleverly.
little bird. Sounds like a little bird singing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Fogerty very cleverly adds one more Sun Records reference into this seemingly simple 2.5-minute song. Dylan.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if any of this sounds super technical to anybody out there, it don't feel lost at all because if you just stop paying attention for even a second, you won't know what's going on. But it's like this stuff is just let it wash over you. If you've never heard of it before, just let it kind of like bathe in it for a second. Just aurally bathe in it, and osmosis will kind of work too. Keep watching the show; that might help too.
If you advocate sound therapy, I'm out of here.
I will never do it.
Okay, so it's great. There's this, Fogerty adds this one more thing. He's building those licks. As you say, he put that pinky on the one thing, then he made a full Carl Perkins lick, and then we hear the That's All Right Mama lick. Which, by the way, That's All Right Mama is on Fender Play, so you can learn that one as well. See what I did there? Brought it all together.
Great Scotty Moore.
Absolutely. Now, Brian, let's put the whole thing together one last time. And everybody at home, grab your guitars, your basses, your ukuleles, whatever you have. Strum along with Brian. We're in the key of D. Brian, let's hear an abridged version of Bad Moon Rising.
All right, let's all sing it together.
That's right.
I see bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way. I see earthquakes and lightning. I see bad times today. But don't go around tonight. That's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. I hear hurricanes are blowing. I know the end is coming soon. I feel rivers overflowing. I hear the voice of rage and ruin. Well, don't go around tonight. What's bound to take your life? There's a bad moon on the rise. Oh, I hope you got your things together. I hope you are quite prepared to die. It looks like we're in for nasty weather. One eye is taken for an eye. Well, don't go around tonight, but it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. Well, don't go around tonight. What's bound to take your life? There's a bad moon on the rise. Woo!
Very nice. Very nice. I
Thank you, fellas.
I almost turned into a werewolf there, just hearing that.
Yeah.
That was good.
I'll tell you, yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, there's not many people we can bring on here that can sing that song in that key and that can do the deep dive. Thank you so much for helping us lift the hood on this classic song. I hope you all out there enjoyed this. It's almost time to, it's actually time to get to the homework, and I'll handle this one. I'll keep my hands on the steering wheel here. For the beginner, we want you to learn the chords to Bad Moon Rising in standard tuning. So just check the link that we have here. You're going to learn Bad Moon Rising in D. Just like that, okay? And use the chord challenge to practice those chord transitions. Right? Little gamification there. Now, for the intermediate, learn a song on the Play site in D standard tuning. We suggested some earlier. We've got Come As You Are by Nirvana. We have Revolution Is My Name by Pantera. That one could be a little more advanced. So if you're feeling game, go for it. Or just
feeling crazy.
If you're just feeling crazy. If there's a revolution in your head. Or just try any song in D standard and see how it sounds. Get used to the sound of that. And for the advanced, this is going to be fun. Loop a progression in D standard tuning, right? So just get your looper out, have your guitar tuned down a whole step, play a progression, and then solo over it with a guitar that's back in standard tuning. So this will kind of help your concepts of what's going on there, and it helps you do those transitions. Very clever. This is really okay. Now let's get to the giveaway. Dylan, you've been sitting there so patiently, and thank you very much for helping us. What have you got for us today?
Well, if you guys decide to learn the Pantera song, come in because the water's warm and we're ready for you. Anyways, that was just a quick blurb.
Sure.
But anyways, so the Fender Play weekly giveaway. So each week we give away an amazing piece of gear to a lucky Fender Play subscriber simply for using Play. So you get 3 7-minute sessions using Play. You get a streak. You get multiple streaks. You get multiple chances to win. You're automatically entered to win for each streak. And if you get lucky, we'll say your name at the end of the show. You get to pick from guitars, amps, basses, all kinds of stuff. So do you guys want to hear who won this week?
Oh, do I?
I do. Here we go. Give me something Sun Records-y. There we go. Matt B.
Way to go, Matt B. Congratulations to you, man. Enjoy your new guitar, bass, amp, whatever it is you choose. Dylan, what else do you have for us?
Okay, so tons of new stuff on the site. Always checking the What's New tab. We've got something that's dear to my heart. Funky. It's the Deep Dive Funk Guitar Collection. Funky. So see if you guys recognize this. So.
There you go. Go out of phase.
It's Play That Funky Music Whiteboard. You guys know that song, right? Okay.
Of course.
That's my theme song. Yeah.
It's
I love it.
fantastic. I listen
Usually
to it
it's
every
Brian's
morning.
walk-on music. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, now, but there's more. So see if you recognize this one. I'm going to do all the horn parts, and I'm going to be everybody in the band.
Of course
it's a 24-piece band. Here we go. So. She's a.
It's Brick House by the Commodores.
It's a Brick House. It's Brick House by the Commodores, right? So
That's pretty
just
impressive.
2. There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there. It's the Deep Dive Funk Guitar Collection. I've been surprised. I've been jazzed up for this. Funked up. I've been really ready for this for several weeks now.
Yeah, you
So
mixed
check it
your
out.
idioms and your metaphors or something. I don't know what you did there, man. You know what? By the way, can I make a note about the D standard tuning, about going down a full step? A heavier gauge string helps. And I know Fogarty, the guitar that he uses that's tuned down full step, he's using 12s to 54s. It's a pretty heavy gauge.
Good Lord,
Yeah.
you could cut cheese with that.
Absolutely.
No, you don't have to go that heavy. I have 11s on this. Oh, by the way, I forgot to talk about what I'm playing. This is a 1986 Squier Telecaster made in Japan. It was my first electric guitar. And some years ago, I put some mini humbuckers in there. But that's what this is. This is my first electric guitar. Got it when I was about 13. Anyway, so if you're dropping down to D standard, 10s or 11s might help that, because as Dylan mentioned, those strings are going to move around on you a little bit, so it might help it. They're going to jangle, might help you stay in tune. Now it's time to wrap up the show. Thank you for that, for allowing me that little sidebar there. Huge thank you to my dear friend Brian Whelan for coming on the show again. Brian.
Oh, thank you.
Brian.
Tell
I
us
love
what you
being here.
tell us what you have going on, man.
I got all kinds of stuff going on. Hopefully, one of these days soon, we're going to be playing some live
Yes.
shows somewhere. So I'm looking forward to that. You can check out brianwhelanmusic.com. And then also, if you follow my erstwhile boss, Dwight Yoakam, he's got some cool stuff coming down the pike here, so you can see both Eugene and I there. So that's what's happening right this minute. But there's always stuff happening in my world. You can follow me on my socials or check out the website to get an idea of that.
Perfect. And everybody watching, if you like this an episode like this, suggest a song that's on the play site that you'd like to see broken down on this show. We're always interested in your feedback. Dylan, it's been a thin slice as always. Thank you very, very much for having. It's great to see you again. For everybody out there, I want you to keep safe, keep practicing, and we'll see you next week at the same time in the same Bat channel. Everybody play out on a G chord. Brian, do your math because you got to do something different to play on a G chord. 1, 2, 3, 4.